Welcome to Sherkawa Horror Stories. Japanese scary stories and urban legends. KANHIMO.
Hey everyone, have you ever heard of something called KANHIMO?
A random poster suddenly showed up in the thread, asking about the existence of something called KANHIMO. Never heard of it, at least I haven't. What is it? Should I be getting hyped already or what?
About KANHIMO, my mother's hometown is deep in the mountains of Nagano, past a little place called Shinshu Shinmachi. I must have been in 3rd or 4th grade at the time. That summer, I went to visit her family out there. There's nothing but mountains, rice fields, and vegetable plots. Only a handful of houses scattered around. Public transport? A tiny village bus that comes twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. Normally, I'd never have gone to such a boring place, but that year my close friend went on a family trip, so I ended up tagging along with my parents. As expected, there was nothing to do. Even when I begged my dad to take me to a department store or something, the nearest supermarket, a small, shabby one, was almost an hour away by car. He just said, "We came here to relax, remember?" and wouldn't take me anywhere. The only saving grace was that a boy around my age was staying at the house next door. You know how kids at that age make friends almost instantly. We started hanging out right away. Let's call him K. But in a countryside like that, there's not much to do. Just pretend, adventures, and exploring the nearby fields and woods. We were there for a week, and I think it was around the 3rd evening. It was past 3 o'clock, the sun already dipping behind the western mountains. Even though it was summer, dusk comes fast out there. The mountains swallow the light before you know it. That day, Kay and I decided to go into a part of the forest we'd never entered before. At first, there was a rough trail, maybe used by locals or animals, but soon it narrowed into something more like a deer path. "Hey, what's that?" Kay pointed ahead. There was a stone monument, maybe 50 centimeters tall, half covered in moss and mud, worn smooth by years of wind and rain. It reminded me of a dosojin, those old roadside guardian statues you see in rural Japan. We brushed off the moss with our hands and a stick, curious to see the carving. But something about it felt wrong. Ordinary dosojin statues usually show a man and woman standing side by side, right? This one had 4 human figures, their bodies twisted together, faces contorted, as if in pain. A chill ran down my back. "Let's get out of here." We both stood up. The air was getting dim and cold. I just wanted to go home. Then Kay said, "Hey, there's something here." At the base of the monument, half buried in the soil, was a small wooden box, about 4 centimeters square. Only a corner was sticking out, the rest jammed in the dirt. "What's that?" I had a bad feeling about it, but Kay didn't hesitate. He dug it out with his hands. It was old, really old. The wood was rotted, crumbling at the edges. There were faint marks showing it had once been wrapped in some kind of cloth. Over that, black ink characters were scribbled, dozens of strange, formal-looking kanji, like from a Buddhist sutra. "There's something inside." Kay peeked through a crack in the box and pulled something out. It looked like a bracelet, made of glossy black cord, maybe velvet, silk, tied in a circle, about 10 centimeters across. The cord was fastened in 5 places with smooth round stones. Each stone had more strange characters carved into it. It looked impossibly clean, shiny, almost polished, like it had never been buried at all. Creepy, yet somehow beautiful. "I found it first, so it's mine," Kay said, and before I could stop him, he tried to slip it onto his wrist. "Don't, stop it," I yelled, nearly crying. Something about it felt horribly wrong. But he wouldn't listen. The moment Kay slipped the bracelet onto his wrist, a strange cry split the air. It echoed through the mountains, somewhere between a bird's screech and a monkey's howl, but not quite either. Something unnatural screamed back at us from the forest. The next thing I knew, everything around us had gone pitch dark. Kay and I freaked out and ran, tripping, stumbling, tumbling all the way down the path until we reached the edge of the village. By the time we got close to our houses, we were out of breath and laughing nervously. That weird bracelet, honestly, we'd already forgotten about it. The phone rang later that night. It was already past 10. I was still awake, goofing around and getting scolded by my mom. "Go to bed already," when the old black rotary phone suddenly shrilled across the house. Grandpa grumbled, "Who the hell's calling at this hour?" and picked up the receiver. Even from where I was sitting, I could tell something was wrong. The color drained from his face. Just moments ago it had been red from his evening drinks, but now it turned pale like paper. The call, I realized, was from Kay's father. When Grandpa hung up, he came storming into the room where I was lying down, grabbed me by the shoulders, and yanked me upright. "Hey, that's my name. Where were you today? Tell me, did you go out back? You went up the mountain, didn't you?" Startled by his shouting, I stammered out everything that had happened that afternoon. My mom and grandma came rushing in from the kitchen and the bath, hearing the commotion. When I finished my story, both of them went pale too. Grandma gasped, "Ah, it can't be." Grandpa muttered, "It might be." Mom whispered, "So it wasn't just an old superstition." I had no idea what was going on. Dad looked confused too, but seeing how terrified the others were, he couldn't even bring himself to ask. In the end, Grandpa, Grandma, and I went over to Kay's house. Before we left, Grandpa made a phone call to someone, I didn't know who. Dad tried to come with us, but Mom made him stay behind, just in case. The moment we stepped into Kay's house, a foul smell hit me. Dusty, sour, metallic. I'd never smelled anything like it before. Now that I think back, I guess that was the smell of death. "Hey, Kay, hang in there," Kay's father was shouting from the back room. Without waiting to be invited in, Grandpa barged straight into the house, and Grandma and I followed close behind. The stench grew stronger as we entered the living room. That's where we saw Kay. He was lying on the tatami. His father, mother, and grandmother were kneeling beside him, frantic. Kay's grandfather had already passed away, so it was just his grandmother. Kay's eyes were open, but unfocused, glassy. His mouth hung slack, drooling thick, white foam that dripped down his chin. It didn't look like he was conscious. Then I noticed what they were doing. Everyone was desperately trying to pull something off his right arm. It was that bracelet. But it didn't look the same anymore. The glossy black cord had come undone, and each strand seemed to be burrowing into his skin. Kay's hand was pitch black from the wrist down, and that blackness wasn't still. It moved, it pulsed, writhing, like the cords had come alive inside his flesh. "It's a KANHIMO," Grandpa shouted suddenly, and before anyone could stop him, he ran straight into the kitchen. I couldn't look away from Kay's arm. Under his skin, something was crawling, like hundreds of thin worms wriggling just beneath the surface. Grandpa came back moments later. In his hand was a unagi ba, a long, thin sashimi knife. "What are you doing?" Kay's parents tried to stop him, but Grandpa shoved them aside and yelled to Kay's grandmother. His arm's already gone, but it hasn't reached his head yet. Kay's grandmother burst into tears and nodded. Grandpa hesitated for only a second, then plunged the knife down into Kay's arm. The only ones who screamed were Kay's parents. Kay himself didn't react at all. That sight, I'll never forget it. Not a single drop of blood came out. Instead, hair, dozens, hundreds of black human hairs came wriggling out of the wound, spilling onto the tatami like a living mass. The blackness in his hand stopped moving. A while later, a monk arrived from the nearby temple, though nearby was still quite far. That must have been who Grandpa had called earlier. The monk moved Kay to a bedroom and began chanting sutras. He kept going all night. He chanted over me too, as if to cleanse me, before we finally went home. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, Kay was gone. He'd left early with his parents, heading for a large hospital in the city. Grandpa said Kay's arm was beyond saving. He kept muttering, "At least it didn't reach his head," over and over again. When I asked him what KANHIMO really was, he wouldn't tell me. But Grandma whispered a few things to me later, that it was written as Fa Beisang, read KANHIMO, and that the strange roadside statue we found, the one with 4 twisted figures, was called Aku. Maybe it was some kind of old charm or curse. Even after all these years, I still can't bring myself to ask them more. If anyone here knows of something similar, please let me know. I still wonder, what would have happened if it had reached his head? That's everything I know about KANHIMO.
Super good job.
Otsu.
Never heard of KANHIMO before. There are so many variations of these rural taboo stories, huh?
Good work. It was really easy to read. Sadly, I don't know anything about KANHIMO.
myself though.
There was another post a few days later.
Good evening, I'm 866, the one who posted about KANHIMO before. A few days later, the original poster returned to the thread with a follow-up. Thank you, everyone, for all your comments and kind words. It seems, though, that no one here actually knows much about KANHIMO. After posting, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So over the weekend, I went back to my mother's old village to investigate on my own. Unfortunately, Grandpa has already passed away, so all I could do was piece things together from Grandma's memories and old records. Still, I ended up spending the whole weekend flipping through dictionaries, trying to understand. Here's what I found. Apparently, KANHIMO was a kind of curse charm, and not a good kind. Back in ancient times, when the village was still isolated, people mostly married within the same settlement. Because of that, bloodlines became too close, and children with deformities or disabilities were often born. In those days, without science or medicine, such children were called magago, cursed children. The women who bore them were known as magatsume, cursed women. But the cruelest part was this. These cursed children didn't always show signs at birth. When their strange behavior began, villagers believed they were possessed by fox spirits or demons. The mother and child would both be killed. The mother forced to kill her own child first, and then put to death herself in a horrific way. No detailed record remains, but that silence alone suggests how terrible it must have been. Even after death, people feared that the magatsume's resentment would bring calamity to the village. So they created the KANHIMO. As I mentioned before, it's written fa bei sang, meaning to bind misfortune with hair. They would take a bundle of the magatsume's hair, tie it together with beads made from the bones of the magago, and seal it with a dark ritual. Then, they buried it in the ground, not within their own village, but in the neighboring one, to transfer the curse away. It was shaped like a bracelet, but its true purpose was entirely malicious. Apparently, other forms existed too, neck rings, cords, and so on. But of course, curses bring counter curses. When the neighboring village discovered a buried KANHIMO, they dig it up and bury it back toward the original village, to send the curse back. To stop this cycle of retribution, a countermeasure was created, the Dosojin statue called Aku. The villagers who made the KANHIMO would place an Aku statue directly above the buried charm, believing it could bridge and bear the pain. Aku originally meant Jaku, to carry suffering, and prevent the curse from returning to their land. The old path to that neighboring village apparently ran right behind the mountain we explored. Over time, the KANHIMO's power faded, eroded by wind and rain. But maybe, the one we found still held its curse. That's all I managed to learn. If anyone has more information, please share it. One last thing. I finally asked Grandma what happened to Kay afterward. She said Kay was taken to a large hospital in the city. Thanks to the monk's prayers, the hair had completely vanished by then. His arm was left as nothing but an empty skin sheath. The flesh inside hollow. He survived, but was left bedridden for life. According to the doctors, his brain was full of tiny holes, countless ones, no thicker than a strand of hair. So please, if you ever come across something like a KANHIMO, never put it on your arm.
That story about KANHIMO is fascinating, but something doesn't quite add up. In greater than 129, you said, when someone discovered a buried KANHIMO, they dug it up and buried it again toward the other village. To stop that, the villagers placed an Aku statue above it. But which villagers are we talking about? From the phrasing, it sounds like the ones who made the curse. Yet earlier, it said they were the ones cursing the neighboring village. It feels like something's missing there.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. The purpose of Aku isn't totally clear. Still, good job 129.
Ah, sorry for the confusion. By villagers, I meant the ones who created the curse. They placed the Aku statue after the curse had been returned to them, to seal it for good. I was running on no sleep after an all-night drive and research session, so please excuse any typos or awkward writing. I just wanted to share what I found while I still could.
After that, the discussion about KANHIMO gradually faded from the thread. So, what did you think? A tale from deep in the mountains of Nagano Prefecture. Does KANHIMO really exist? Either way, a curse that physically attacks you is something I'd rather not encounter. Stay tuned for the next Japanese urban legend. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of horror from Japan.